One tool that exists on most operating systems is the nslookup tool. It's used to look up domain name information. So if we need to troubleshoot DNS, or if we just want to see what a system has running, like if we want to see, hey, does this university run its own email server? We could use nslookup to accomplish this. So I'm going to be running this in Windows. I'm going to start Windows PowerShell. And I'll bring this window over. I'm going to move my windows just a bit to maximize my screen real estate. Hopefully I'm zoomed in well enough. It's all legible. So let's do some quick lookups using nslookup. So I'm going to say nslookup google.com. What does it do? It goes to my DNS server. In my case, I use my local in-home router for my DNS server. So it in turn is going to go out to the internet and find all the IP address information for Google and return it back to me. And so I see two addresses. nslookup by default, it gave me the IPv6, IP version 6 address. It also gave me the IP version 4 address. So nice and easy. We might get different information. The IP addresses you get might be different depending on just where you're connecting from, because google.com might resolve to a bunch of different IP addresses because Google has a bunch of servers all over the world. Now we can say, all right, nslookup google.com. I can provide the DNS server where I want to pull this information from. Google has its own DNS servers that anybody in the world can use. One of those IP addresses is 8.8.8.8. It's one of the few IP addresses on the public internet that I have memorized. So I could look up that information there and I get back the same IP address for google.com. So that's fantastic. Not shocking, but I'm just able to specify. So if I'm running my own in-house DNS server and I want to check one specific configuration, I could specify that information there. I can also change the type of record. So by default, if I just say nslookup, it's going to give me IPv4 and IPv6 information. But what if I want to look up mail information? So those are different record types. I can say nslookup -type equals mx. So mx is the DNS record type, google.com. So it tells me that their mail server is at smtp.google.com. All right, not shocking. They run their own email server. I could look this up for, instead of google.com, let me change it to yahoo.com. So what does Yahoo looks like? They've got their own separate servers. Great. I'm just learning a little bit about the way these organizations have their infrastructure set up. It's not shocking information. If I do nslookup whitehouse.gov, whitehouse.gov with the MX record type. Interesting. They're using Cloudflare for their DNS. So I know the United States government is a customer of Cloudflare. It's just telling me a little bit about their infrastructure. So looking this information up, it's not private. DNS information on the public internet is public. You're allowed to see it. It's not hiding anything. It's just telling us a little bit about their infrastructure. Now let's say hypothetically you've got an IP address in your logs and you want to figure out, like, where the heck did this packet come from? One thing that you can do is do a reverse lookup. And so if you see an IP address in your logs, I can say nslookup and I'm going to type in an IP address I see there in my own instructions, 74.125.129.101. I can see that that IP address resolves to the domain name, this YUCMHAD, that just looks like random data. But I see it's 1E100.net. So 1E100, that's scientific notation for a Google, the number Google. So if I saw this IP address in the logs, I could be somewhat confident that that came from a server managed by Google. So this is a reverse lookup. A forward lookup is when I take a domain name and I'm looking for an IP address. A reverse lookup is when I have an IP address and I'm looking for a domain name. So try this out a couple times. See what you can find. Do a few lookups for your university, government websites. It's totally fine. This isn't hacking or anything. This is all public information. You're just querying the domain name system to find out information about these different servers.